My name is Kelly Cameron, and I teach Pre-B Biology, IB Biology 2, and IB Biology 3. In the junior year, we start off with basic experimental design, different ways of setting up experiments, whether they're survey-based or actual data collection or data-based, and then analyzing all the data, learning some different graphing techniques and statistical techniques. And then we'll go into basic biochemistry, cell biology, chemistry of cells, cell reproduction, genetics, molecular genetics, and then we do evolution and some plant biology, and then we end with ecology. In the junior year, the emphasis is on the IA, so what IB is going to externally assess in science. So we learn how to actually design labs and do other analysis, and then through the curriculum junior year, there's lots of labs that students do, sometimes individually, sometimes as groups, and those skills then are kind of assessed primarily to get ready for the senior year, while your students will actually do their official IA at the end of first semester, their senior year, and then the IB rubric will be applied to that. So the emphasis is really lab-based junior year. All of the IB sciences are going to require students to participate in an independent research project. We think it's really important for them to understand what a science competition is actually like. So there's lots of local and state-affiliated science competitions. So that first semester, they have to be willing to do kind of a long-term project that will be graded periodically, meeting different kind of benchmarks, and then that will be entered in a competition. So if students don't like that, then they might not want to take an IB science. And then senior year, we'll finish up the ecology, we'll do some classification, and the majority of the senior year is anatomy and physiology. And then after the exam in May, we do about 3 weeks of bioethics. Once that IA is done, really there's not a lot of lab work done that's assessed with the IB curriculum, because the majority of senior year is the anatomy and physiology, and it's really hard to design experiments using a sheep heart or something. So there's lots of lab work in the senior year, but not so much assessed. So really the emphasis senior year is in the testing, preparing students to do well on the IB exam. Most of the time in Pre-B, we're covering the same sort of content area. So obviously we don't expect every freshman by the time they're juniors to remember everything they learn, but at least they've been exposed to the same things that we're going to teach in the junior and senior year, just not to the level of depth and detail. Our biggest emphasis is preparing them for the lab work so that they can design labs and can start to analyze data and write conclusions. They have to be skilled in higher level thinking skills, so their tests, they actually have to write essays. They do a lot of lab write-ups. They do a couple of formal presentations from research projects to kind of get them ready for that kind of lab work their junior year. So the internal assessment now, it's a newly changed. They will just do one formal independent project, an IA, that will be graded. It's 10 hours of in-class time where they'll pick one topic where they're going to gather a lot of data and then have the rubric applied to it. So their whole practice, their junior and first semester, senior year, is to get ready for this IA that they'll do in January. And so they've seen this rubric many, many times before. They've gotten feedback on the rubric, so they'll have a pretty good idea of what they need to do. And then they also, just to get ready for the exams, during their unit exams and then also during their unit guide homework questions, they actually see old IB test data analysis, old multiple choice questions from old IB exams, old essays. So they're constantly being marked with an IB rubric, so they get used to the kind of detail they need to have.